Hello listeners, welcome to Saturday E for 2023.
Big Saturday!
Big Saturday time, yeah. We're heading straight into the battle, as always. We have like the Navach's muster. It was so hot getting ready for this one.
A sweaty business.
Yeah, I think like getting suited up and everything, popping on all the things. There's a lot of hurry up and wait as well, which happens with battles, where you kind of. It's very important to get to muster because it's good to be there on time, and then you get there, and then you got to wait for a while, and then there's marching down to the gate. Then there's a lot of waiting there.
Who were we fighting? Was it the Thule? No,
it was the
it was the Druge, right?
It was the Druge, yeah.
And it was like the setup for the battle was going to be rituals.
Yes.
So there had to be two separate rituals done, and then a third ritual would open up. Yeah,
so basically you think of it like locks. Essentially there were two locks which we had to do rituals at, which would then open the gate that meant we could go through into the woods to do a ritual there, which is the ritual that mattered. So, and meanwhile, if one of these, after the places where we had done these rituals, to my understanding, had to be held, and if they were taken, then that would break...
Correct.
Break the thing and meant that you were locked off, essentially.
Well, because I didn't know a huge amount about what was going on. I had a rough idea. I think they basically... I'm actually... Because I got to see loads of this. Yeah. So we'll actually talk about it during the actual battle. But
yeah, so that was my understanding going in. I was running on fumes already, and we're going to Saturday, but I was up for it.
Mate, I don't know how you managed to go, like, I'm going to go to bed at 4 a.m, and then you're going to be, like, actively quite perky when you get to the battlefield. I go to bed at, like, midnight, and I'm actually, to be fair, this is how old I'm getting.
Yeah.
I had a lovely night's sleep.
Yeah.
I was fresh as a daisy.
Yeah.
Felt great, which was weird going to a battle feeling like tip-top.
I felt pretty good, actually, because there's something, considering, that weirdly the character and what it is to be Talis, and there's a certain energy level that's required, that once you start doing it and people feed off it, then it's kind of like, it kind of ramps me up and I kind of get where I need to be.
I love because Navarre's big now.
Yeah.
So, I should mention, Cadigan, thank you so much for, we did a bit of ritual magic. We had a bit of a thing that meant I could do a stay with me. Now, I also, during my downtime, I haven't spent my points in ages.
Yeah.
So I went like dude with a new credit card. I was like just... buying.
Funny you should say. I did exactly the same thing.
Did you really?
I did, yeah. And bear in mind, I've been playing for quite a while now.
Yeah, you must have like buku.
Talis is not bad on the old XP now for considering.
Yeah. What did you get?
I am now a hero, and I now have Stay With Me, and I have
Cleave.
Cleave, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta have Cleave.
Yeah, it was just it's pretty cool. I can rock that stuff because basically I was kind of tempted. Like I've got a whole bunch of herb lore at the moment now, like potions I can brew. But I kind of got it to level where it's like the ones I can brew are the ones I kind of like I'm interested in. The other stuff doesn't really make a lot of sense for me at the moment. And I like the idea of like being able to this kind of shifting role of Talis. I like this idea of like getting a bit more into like going in and picking people up, especially as I had that reckoning thing, which was like save a certain number of leaguers that I'm playing with.
You're like
an extraction
savior Talis.
Yeah, it was like a sort of a new mode, and we'd get into that because it was like there was a lot of this sort of stuff. I've got some Scops meads ready to go, ready to pop as well because. This benefit of being an alchemist, you can get high on your own supply.
Yeah.
And
what does Scops Mead do?
That basically gives you your hero points back, so you can do more of the same.
Wicked.
So yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Right? I did my pieces.
Yeah.
I got like an extra mana.
Amazing.
And I also got I at the moment I have Empower, which I like.
Yeah.
I have paralysis,
which is very good
for the lols.
Yeah,
because it's really fun. And at the time, I was like paralysis for anti-assassination.
Yeah,
quite good. But I now have repel.
Oh, very nice.
I have, what else do I have? I have venom.
Oh wow, okay. Because some of the things you also have for your magic items and stuff as well, right?
Well, I also have a. What does my weapon give me? Because Orion made me quill.
Isn't that what gives you extra venom as well, or something like that?
No.
Or no, is that the one that means that you get relentless and stuff like that? Where you
It's
get your
something
limbs
like
back?
that.
Yeah. I think that's the one.
Something like that.
Or an extra rank of fortitude. I can't remember.
Fuck, I can't remember now.
It makes you harder to kill. I
Anyway,
think is the gist.
I'm armed to the fucking teeth.
Yeah.
I've got like mage blood, which is the thing that gets your mana back. And I was just saying to Agni before we got to the battle, I was like, I'm gonna go fucking ham.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna have me some. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wanna
Good.
squirt my boots. I want to try and.
So you're not gonna hide at the back of the formation and have Agni find you an extraction route? Is that's not going to happen this time?
I did some pretty solid fighting.
You did some pretty solid fighting.
I think you've been deeply slanderous about my.
I'm literally saying your words back at you, and you don't like the way they sound. I'm literally saying your words back at you.
I fought heavily on.
You know, you do this to me all the time. And the moment it turns to you, I just smell your own farts. You don't like the scent.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
That's all right.
Excuse me, sir.
I'm happy to let you hang yourself with your own words. Yeah.
Would you mind if I?
No, please do.
Well, I think you'll find I fight very bravely on the front lines, and when things are looking like. To be fair, it wasn't even my idea. It was Agni's idea. Because I'm so valuable to the Empire.
Yeah. And you agreed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't take the escape route.
You would have done.
Yeah, I would have done, but I didn't have to.
Amazing.
So,
oh my God.
Vigilance, my friend.
The shit you give me.
Vigilance and wisdom.
And the...
Hey, mate, I've done archery now, okay? I've done it. I know exactly what it's like.
Right.
Mr. I'll walk up and down the back lines. The only thing I have to worry about is harsh language coming from the opposition.
Let's talk about the battle. We'll see where this
archery, goes. Like, honestly, it's like easy mode. Easy mode. Okay?
We'll talk about the battle.
Most of the time, because you have so few arrows, because it's literally firing a tenor across the battlefield, you don't fire that much. You sit, hold on to your arrow, threaten a bunch of people, and then when it gets serious... Anyway,
it's all right.
Archers, you do you.
Yeah.
I'm not here to hate.
Yeah, well, evidently.
I'm not here to hate. Anyway. So, who are we fighting with? Do you remember?
There was us, Dawn, the
Urizen,
League, I think.
League, Urizen.
Yep, Dawn.
I think that was it, wasn't it?
I think so.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was it.
Sorry if we've forgotten anybody. We should say this is actually we're a bit later talking about all of this than we normally would do these things. So some of it is a bit hazy.
Not only bad with naming characters,
yes,
but remembering
anything
at all.
Yes.
So,
you don't come here for accurate reporting.
No,
what you get here is like a vague, swimmy, dreamlike interpretation of what happened.
Twitter news. Of,
oh God! Don't say that.
X.
No. Don't ever. No.
Whatever the fuck he's called it now.
God, oh my God! I hate
fucking Elon Musk, man. Honestly.
Dude, why did you have to bring that in?
I don't know. Honestly,
you're the problem.
We're in the death of parody, man.
Yeah.
So we're all hanging out, and it was like I love those moments where the army are mustering, and the Vars all lined out, and it's like because I'm a senator, I have an elite unit, which is the like the political core.
Right, okay.
And I'm there for morale.
Right, okay, yeah.
To give encouragement.
Right.
So me and Agni...
To take bold, brave action on the front line.
Well, kind of. It's funny because, like, Agni's a healer.
Right.
So...
Right.
And I'm obviously... You know,
a badass.
A weapon.
Yeah, a real badass over here.
So...
Big deal.
I like to walk up and down the line. I like to have chats. I like to have hugs with people I know. I like to have a bit of a chin wag with the other forces. I like all of that. I saw the Reapers. I sat down with them. The Reapers, by the way, are just so cool. Yeah. When I saw them, they were literally lying in the shade of a tent, like a proper mercenary company.
Yeah.
They were like, just take this opportunity to sit down, get some water on. You know, they're just so cool.
Well, Agony was incredible, actually, because again, emphasize it was super hot.
Super hot.
And we're all there for quite a while waiting for the gate to open. And Agony's like by the water dispensers and she's just pouring water over people. And at first I was like,
oh, this is a thing. I don't know whether they had it before. Pedia put out these big water vats.
Yeah.
It wasn't drinking water.
No, it was.
But you could have yourself a bit of a
sloosh it over yourself.
A sloosh it over.
Oh, it was really good. And so she was pouring it over us and like down the back and stuff. It was
good.
Heaven.
And the guys in heavy armor were like, oh my god.
I went back for seconds.
It was like, you should get any photographer, if you can shoot like, you know, where you can see like super slow-mo with the water cascading. If you want like hot boys and girls in armor getting doused in water and their faces, oh my god.
It was paradise because it was so hot. So massive props to Agni. She actually helped a whole bunch of people cool off because it was very hot. Also, I think there's something to be said about like when you've got that many people in an area in that kind of heat, it's actually quite a thing.
But Agni's actually very evil, but you wouldn't be able to tell.
No.
So very helpful in an evil way.
While that was going on, Yelena sang "Fly Free, Fly True" for the company.
She sold the song.
She sang the song again. It was so good. But I felt like I wouldn't be there for the first time in terms of like I'd step out and just let them sing it, and then take a read of like things. And then she said, "Next time you should come into the circle and sing it with us." And I was like, "Yes." It was really cool. It was an awesome moment to be like the friendship that you thought he'd lost. It's still there. It was a really nice moment to have like that piece of RP has reached a nice point.
What are
it was
you
really
going
cool.
to do without any emo roleplay anymore, Ian?
I don't know. Like Talis is in I've got another event of the Brand of Iramus to get through.
Oh, how many? Is it last year?
Yeah, so it's next to 2 events actually.
Two events.
Yeah, 2 events. More events to go through.
Did they ask you at Thorns Council about it for the lols?
Not at Thorns Council, at Muster.
Muster, they did it.
I'm used as an example about what not to do in battles. The Talis Retreat is an important lesson to be mentioned.
I want to, if I forget, the Talis Retreat actually came up. I don't think it was even someone from the League or Navarre actually mentioned it.
No. I know. I'm very aware of this.
Fucking hilarious that it's its own meme now.
Yeah,
and I get to hear it. Is this a proper retreat or one of those Talis maneuvers? You know, like
yeah. Like, oh no, but it's cool. I actually really love it. Like, weirdly, I've had an impact on the game. It just to my character's temperament.
In my opinion, you're playing a significantly more interesting, more vibrant game than that. Anyway, people are here for the battle, dude.
Yes, let's go into the
battle. We all troop out. Basically, we first of all went into the woods on the left-hand side.
Before that, you've got written on here you gave your money to Bungle, right?
So I went spying,
right,
in my little ship.
Oh, sure. So this is an action to describe it to people. You can take no.
Yeah. So I had a fleet.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I going to do? Actually, it was 2 events ago now, I think.
Right.
Because I went trading for this one.
Right.
It was last event.
So these, to describe briefly for people who don't play, during downtime, there's like a drop-down box that people who do have military units and fleets have, which basically let them pick the type of action their fleet or military unit is taking between events. In this instance, you picked trade. The one previously you picked helping with the spying mission.
Yeah, and basically I was in the Bay of Katazar.
Yeah, Katazar.
And basically I was counting Grendel ships. And I like this idea of me and my big burly boys crew, which are all rippling buff dudes.
Look at the muscularity.
And there's me in my cabin, and then like I hear a yell, "Captain, there's a sail on the horizon." I'm just like, just write it in the book. Just write it. I'm busy. Just write it in the book. And I'm like drinking cocktails in my cabin. You know, like that's kind of how I picture me doing a spy mission. I got paid for it. So I got a message, and I was like, when do I go pick it up? They told me a time and a place, and then basically Bungle was non-comming, so off he went to pick my money up.
Yep.
To be fair, I did just give him the money.
Yep.
It was like, here's the money. I was like, you keep it.
Yeah.
Because he pays for things for me.
Yeah.
So
Then we head out on the battle. Basically, it was a bit strange. Again, this was obviously all of a field marshal decision. I don't exactly know how all these decisions get made, but the decision was that Navarre would hold the field after basically taking these points.
We went first of all in.
Yeah.
Okay, went through the woods.
Yeah.
Broke them really fast.
Yes.
They headed back.
Yeah.
Went to like the edge of the woods, and I was like charging forward. And there was like, in those kind of like moments where the line's coming out, they're not everyone's in place. And me and Agni's like, I'm like fighting off a certain group, and I'm yelling at people to try and come over and shore up this line. And then Gale comes along with his unit, and I'm like, I need people here to make to hold this line. And then Gale goes, "You heard the senator." Now, and I was just like, I was so happy. And Gale just like took his unit and like plugged that gap and thought, and I was just like, oh my god, he just said like, you heard the senator. It was like, I was so fucking happy about it, dude. Like, it was really funny. Like, it was one of those like,
that's great.
Oh, I'm the senator though. Like, it was really funny.
I know, I'm really pleased for you.
But yeah, we battled them back.
I had a really good fun bit. I actually forgot about this until you mentioned the initial part of the battle, because it was very quick, this first bit, breaking them. It was so quick that there was really not much time for arrow fire, but it turned into like... that bit in Jaws, where they shoot at the barrels, and all the giddy music comes on as they're chasing after the barrels?
Yeah.
It was kind of like that, and I was like, there's no time for any of this, so I literally was like, I'm just going to run after them with a sword, which is my piddly little sword. I had a great old time just running down, just like hacking people down.
It was a weird battle to start off with, because it was like, we hit them really hard, then they made like they fortified themselves a bit on the edge of the woods.
Yeah.
We managed to like beat them back after a little bit. I did a bit of magic. It was good.
Yeah.
And basically what happened was so Urizen were over on the far side of the field. They were a little further back. There was like a coppice of woods. And by the way, everyone, this includes the new player skirmish that I was part of as well, basically being in the shade was big and clever.
Yeah.
Like standing out in the middle of the sun was a mug's game.
We'll get to the battle down Sunday.
But like, so Urizen were over the far side. And I remember thinking like, what the fuck is all of Urizen doing there?
Yeah.
Right? And then, which isn't that many, there's like two of them.
You're the worst.
It's dude, I can't not.
You can't help the mean, but...
I can't not.
Urizen are awesome.
I love Urizen.
Yeah,
and then Navarre were looking after the other ritual sites. So there's two ritual sites on the main field. And the Dawn and the League go through the gate and start fighting. And the Field Marshal decided that the entirety of Navarre should stay in a holding pattern.
Yeah. Again, I don't know what decisions were made, if this was a prearranged thing or not. I think it was, actually. I'm not entirely sure.
No, it was a change of plan.
Okay.
I know that because I was running.
Okay.
I was doing some
of course,
work.
yeah.
I was freelancing running.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually part of the auxiliaries.
Yeah.
I think of myself as more like a free-floating entity.
Right.
So
you do enjoy the running game, though. You used to actually do it.
I do,
but with your fitness, I guess because you've come off a bunch of injuries.
I'm getting better.
It does seem like you're back.
I'm getting stronger.
Yeah.
I'm rebuilding the machine. But the hammer.
Yeah. He's fucking great.
We have a general called the Anwin. She's so badass.
Yeah, dude.
Like, she's just a fucking boss.
Really cool. She basically looks after all the organisation that's standing as well, and it's like
and runs it really
well.
She's polite but firm,
yeah,
and just keeps everything. And you need to do that. In these big
gives
meetings.
the briefings at muster, tells people what to do. Is just a good authority for the nation on the field.
And we've lost in Navarre a lot of experienced authority figures.
Yeah. It's big boots to fill.
She's filling a big gap, and doing very well.
She's very important to the nation.
Well, it was like during that battle when we were trying to squish them into top gate and squish them into mid gate. There was like a lot of fuckery happening.
Yeah.
I did a bit of running, managed to get all that sorted out, and then we would pull back to the woods while Dawn and the League went through. And it was clear there was not enough forces because top gate was effectively closed.
Yeah.
So it was only mid gate. There was not enough forces went through there initially, and they had a terrible time. While
you guys were doing a lot of that, it was decided that being an archery unit, we were needed through the gate. Basically, the decision was made, so we were excluded from the Navarre hold on the outside thing. Basically, so
that was kind of like after about 10 minutes or something, there was a decision to send the Navarches through, wasn't there?
We pretty much went through straight away, actually. So we go through, and then I think some of you guys ended up coming in later, but it was pretty. It was pretty tight in there. I would say. I think the battle was hard in places. Most of the places I went, we were kind of doing fairly well. But I think there's a lot of that happens in battles. Like I had this a bunch of times where my area of the field is going quite well, but you hear about other places where it's going incredibly hard, and you move around, or you're having a really hard time. Other places on the field are having a fairly easy time, especially in the woods. You get these battles kind of break out into these strange kind of sub-engagements that have their own...
It's because of the routes of manoeuvre, right? Like, not everything is passable, so it creates these little islands where these channels happen where units can push through. On the main field, I was hanging out with... We headed down and there were, like, sporadic spawns of orcs that were clearly meant to kind of hit us in the rear. Yeah. We had so much force that basically every single time they came out, they would just get stomped. Like, absolutely just bang, 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 they all go down. The one that the Navarre was guarding, the ritual went off. And I said to Agni, let's go and see what Urizen are up to. And we started walking across the field towards them. And then we saw this big group of orcs come out, and I was like, Agni, we might need to run. And then we had to, like, run to where Urizen were. Those orcs all got bish-boshed by the wonderful spear mob that are Urizen. And then I got to see that ritual finish. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, cool. And I was just like, hey, Agni, do you fancy going through the gate? And she was like, yeah. And then that's when I went through the gate. There was like almost like a corridor passed up through the middle of the thing. Yeah. And then we basically walked up that corridor. Yeah. There was sporadic battles. There was very much so the kind of... There were lots of forces in one area and less forces in the other. Yeah. So some people were having like the fight of their lives, and other people were like just murdering.
I think there was this big press to get to the area where the final ritual had to be conducted, and obviously the main body force went there. But as they're pushing forward, of course, there's all of these natural pathways that need certain delegations of units to go down and clog them up. Mm-hmm. The issue being, at the time, there may only be a couple of orcs there, but then later on there's multiple orcs there, and the forces that have been sent aren't obviously sufficient to deal with them, or are far too many to deal with the few that are there, which is very hard to manage.
No, I think it's like I think this is by design. There was like, because it's Druge, there were the spawn areas there were a few different key spawn areas, and sometimes they would bloop out a small amount of forces, just as harassing forces, and sometimes they would blop out a large amount of forces. And that happened, like, there were some really good fights on the field later on, like when the rituals were taking place. So for a while, people were like, ugh, we're just waiting around. But then there were big blobs of units, which made it all kind of justified. I headed up, and we found the Reapers, and they were part of the protection team for the last ritual group.
Oh, amazing!
What are they called? The Whispering Eye? Is that what they're called?
I've no idea. I wasn't at the final ritual point.
They're a ritual group.
Yeah.
and they were amazing.
Yeah?
They were fucking incredible.
Were they? Which nation were they?
League.
The League, okay.
And they were doing a play, because they do like dramaturgy.
Yeah.
Oh my god, they were just so amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I was like just watching them, and they were just doing this play, and like it had all the different characters showing up and them doing all this stuff and this story happening, and pretty much that's how I spent the end of the battle, was literally just sitting down and enjoying some very, very good improv.
Meanwhile,
yes,
on the right flank inside the woods, it's hot. It's danger close.
Yeah,
it's danger close, and we've been in an area where I've been sort of working with some Dornish there with some blobs. I'd kind of lost contact with a bunch of people originally, because we all had to get pulled away in different directions. And there's me and Bramble as the duo that we were kind of working through with Dawn, just basically trying to slow the line, because that's one thing you can do as an archer. You can threaten, and also you can hit them from their sides and start just basically building a salient that then can get crushed. And you can stop and advance if you play it right. But there were people who were down behind the enemy advance, and they'd obviously been there for a little bit. So I'm like, a couple of times, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go and extract some people. So it's just, it was some, like, first time, weren't offered charm. I was like, I'm going in, I'm going to get them. And I told some people around me, took a shot, drew sword, went in, got a person who was on the ground, pulled them out, chucked them behind the line, healers dealt with them, got to do stay with me, that kind of stuff. Awesome. Second time, again, went pretty well, pretty good. Third time, I was at this point, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. I'm doing pretty well. I'm having a good time here. I kind of just said the thing. I'm going to go and get that person. And I didn't see that just as that's happening is like the moment they choose, the enemy force chooses to really push. So I step out just as they basically all step forward. I get this guy up and I'm just like, I'm deep at this point, like in a lot of trouble. I'm in like the middle of the two forces at this point. Absolute no man's land. Get him up, obviously, one hit, push him towards the line. I'm just getting clubbed. And I'm like, I'm kind of, and the thing is, like this whole process of getting a person up, it's RP to obviously get them up, help them up, then, move them. You're taking hits all that time. I'm trying desperately to defend with my sword, and I'm like counting in my head, how many hits I've got, bump, 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 bump. And it's like, and bang, I'm down, right? And I go down, and then the line just pushes over, right? And it's just like, oh dear, this is pretty bad.
And you're in heavy armor, right?
I'm in heavy armor, right? And, but, yeah, so I go down, and all of a sudden, because I can hear some screaming, I can hear someone calling out, like, I can hear Bramble in the distance calling out my name, and then there's this shield that just goes over the top of me, because it's just chaos, right, above me. This all happens in a fairly short period of time, I should say, but obviously, it's like, sort of that moment is...
Are you still envenomed?
No, I didn't even get into this, but on the previous night, Caro had basically, while I was at the Blind Eye, was like, he basically ordered me to get cured of my venom, and this, actually, man, I'm really ashamed I didn't actually say this, this awesome marcher came along and basically extracted the venom. I was like, so how long have you had this venom? I was like, pretty much
2 years.
All year.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is the longest case of venom we've ever had. And I'm like, obviously, I have to RP this, like, it's though I was like suddenly like absolutely knackered and like had to have a pick me up drink. And people were
obviously,
people were like putting the straw into my mouth so I could sip from the coconut. It was hilarious. It was so good. But and I was like, I think I waited too long. All this kind of stuff. It's great RP. But anyway, so I'm unvenomed, fortunately. But I just suddenly this shield comes over the top of me, and I get scooped up, and I'm getting pulled back, and it's It's Tristan from our good friends at LARPs and TARPs.
No way!
But it has like literally stepped out into like it's like literally anarchy above me. Stepped out, grabbed me, picked me up, and pulled me back. Saved my life. Amazing. Thank you so much. Our characters actually haven't really interacted that much. Like, I mean, obviously, I know.
Well, now you owe him.
Yeah. So afterwards, I get healed up, and I'm like, "Sir, I must have your name so I can buy you and get you a drink." So, yeah, it's gonna be this cool. I have to send him a letter, and we'll have to like actually. It was actually resulted in because like I really get on with Morgan, so it's me a good chance to actually like have our characters properly meet up.
Love the LARPs and TARPs, people.
Yeah,
really
just be
nice.
really good chance. Like, because obviously I know Tom, who plays Uncle Nietzsche, but I hadn't actually had that much opportunity to meet Tom. To meet Morgan. So it's gonna be a good opportunity to know his character, and it was great. He was like bossing. Apparently, him and Nietzsche were having a competition, like a Gimli Legolas style competition about how many they could kill, and while all this is going on, it's incredible. But yeah, so he gets me up. It was an awesome moment because like Bramble's this kind of character who I've kind of sort of taken under my wing, and it was just this kind of relief from her when it's like I'm alive, and she's like, never do that again. I'm like, well, I can't guarantee it.
Poor Bramble.
She's destined for a disappointment in that front. It was great.
I want to also say when we were filming for the charity thing on Friday. We were chatting, and it was just like Tom's like the crazy fun one.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh no, am I Morgan and you're?"
It definitely that's the case. What you under the illusion it's not?
He's all into his chivalry,
but Morgan, but
romance.
They're both the superior version of us, right?
Because
Tom is not only funnier than me, and basically, but he's actually much more efficient than me. He owns a mercenary company.
Yeah.
He actually makes money.
They're 2.0.
He owns the highest value piece of real estate in the league.
We should.
Yeah,
we're old hat. We should hang up our things. Anyway, I watched The Ritual. It's successful.
Yep.
We leave. I should also mention I got to use a bunch of my spells. I got to empower people. Mm-hmm. I even repelled a really poor, unfortunate orc.
Yeah.
Repel means that you have to walk backwards for 10 seconds.
Right.
So this tiny little charge happened.
Yeah.
I repel this fellow.
Yeah.
He moves back 10, paying in 10 seconds. The rest of the guys all get murdered. And then he charges again. And it was like...
That's cool.
It was hilarious.
Amazing.
Repel is for the lols.
Yeah.
All magic is for the lols.
Yeah.
But like, Paralyze and Repel are both of the funniest that I think I've seen.
Magic, when it comes off, it really is... can swing a moment.
Super powerful.
Super duper powerful,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like the ability to...
But there are also weapons out there where you don't even need to do your RP setup.
Yeah.
You can just go venom, 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 venom. And it's like, that shit's crazy.
There's some crazy
strong
stuff. Yeah, like I remember at one of the player events we went to, there was the Archmage of Spring, I think it was, had like this staff that just meant he could just boom shout.
Everyone.
Yeah. It was crazy.
Dornish guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are crazy powerful.
While you were talking just then,
yeah.
Controversial hot take.
Yeah.
Archers shouldn't be able to wear heavy armor.
No.
What?
That's dumb.
Why?
Why are you going to hate on the archers?
I'm just saying.
That's crazy talk.
I'm just saying.
That's crazy talk.
I'm just saying.
If you go to the effort of putting on heavy armor and running around as an archer, good on you. Because I tell you what, it's not an easy racket all the time.
Well,
I was a sweaty man, Dave.
Well,
and I think I wear like on the lighter side of heavy.
I think light archers makes a lot more sense thematically.
Not at all. No, that dude. If you look in history, that's just not the case at all.
Isn't it?
No.
Isn't it?
No. Look at multiple cultures. That's definitely not the case. No.
Crossbowmen.
So what, you're going to say the crossbow? Dude, you're talking crazy stuff.
I'm just...
Open up your books and you'll see you're wrong. Anyway.
Raph, you know I'm right about this.
To get onto a very sad thing that happened, we'd kind of something that we've often kind of thought would happen, was the death of our good friend Caro.
How did he die?
I don't know how he died, but hearing about it, and one thing we forgot to mention with this battle, this shows how we're recording this a little bit after the fact, there was an effect going on during this battle that if you died, you had the option to stand up and come back as a zombie.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
which is
that was such a big deal.
Yeah. So, and also that the bad guys, as we kill them, would do that. So there was this idea, and that's part of why Navarre was left on the field, was because the idea was, as we moved over and killed things, there was the chance they could stand back up again. It seemed the way it played out that wasn't actually often a thing that was happening. I think a lot of the time we were just executing things.
We
were quite efficient.
It was a zombie, by the way, that I repelled. I forgot to mention that. So it was really funny seeing a zombie and then zombie back again. Really
officially, they're winter-infused things. They're not actually zombies.
Yeah, and then
basically
they're
zombies.
not Valorn. They're a different type of zombie.
They're zombies. Yeah. But yes, so that was a cool aspect to it. Caro came back as a zombie, was killed, I think.
Really?
Yes. Was killed by, I think, the Ian, who plays the general of Zealous Dance.
Nice, good memory.
Yeah, good guy. And I think I'm right in saying he actually slew him, and then his body was taken back towards the gate. Caro's a big deal, I think, for all of us. Like proper OG, especially for us, right? Like, it came in the same time as us. I think if you listen back to the whole podcast...
Dude, I'm friends with Robert.
Yeah.
I really love that guy. He's a really good dude.
Mm-hmm.
Caro... He had such an interesting story to go from getting all the military units organised for that big holding. I think it was Leafhaven, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then he became general.
Yeah.
Lost his generalship.
Yeah.
But still heavily respected.
Yeah.
And then to die.
Yeah.
Oof.
It was a big lot. And like, just on a... Like, for what he is to the characters and who he is to us as players, like, he goes basically back to our first event. There's a lot of lore, if you like, in the Talis Caro RP.
Yeah.
Is pretty steeped. Like, when things were happening with Talis and the whole stuff with the brand, like the conversations with Caro and like stuff were very heavy, and there's a lot of stuff like that. But hearing that his character died was very sad. I saw him getting carried towards the gate, and I stopped them, which I probably shouldn't have done, but it was just I had to say something to him before he got carried through the gate. So I just sort of, like, even though essentially he's just a corpse at that point, I just grab him and I just sort of whisper some words in his ear. Classic kind of you'll be remembered kind of stuff, and you did what you did for the Empire, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Like, proper like bro stuff where it's just like, baller hero of the Empire goes through the gate. And then took him through the gate. The battle after basically the rituals were done and all that kind of things was a success.
Everything was really successful, yeah.
Yeah, it actually went fairly well. We were pretty efficient, I felt, and things went off fairly well. I think in areas there were harder fights and easier fights, and that's just how it was.
It was chaotic but victorious.
Yeah. I think that's just the nature of the battle. When you have a situation with against the Druge, it's very hard.
Also, having to split your forces to defend different areas by its very nature is going to leave giant gaps.
Yep. Combine that with zombies that can rise from the dead, an unpredictable foe is a lot of difficult things to deal with from a logistics point.
Like, that battle would be harder if the site was bigger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It still feels there's lots of gaps, but again, especially having talked to Andy Connell, I'm really aware of this now, of being like, there's a lot of people on those fields.
Yeah.
I think if it was a larger area, we probably would have struggled more, but luckily it all worked out wonderfully.
Headed back from the battle.
I had office hours.
Yeah.
Which was, I was like, I'm going to be at my camp between 12 and 2.
this is a statement you'd already made at standing?
Yes.
Yeah. So people knew where to find you?
No one came to find me.
Okay. But people know.
In theory,
Yeah.
they
I
could
think this is a good idea, though, right, to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. Then we had
What-
standing.
Yes, yeah. And
I spoke at standing. I told them about the skirmish that was going to take place, and was like, "Hey, you should if you're from Farunin, go get them.
Yeah.
We need to go and smash them." We'll get to that. What happened there?
Yeah.
And then we had the Farunin vote.
there was my senator.
For
Now,
the
as a
senator,
my senator Travid, who is a wild genius,
A shrewd political
shrewd
operator.
operator. I'm blessed to have Travid as my senator. But no, Farunin being my region, obviously care a great deal about it. So obviously have to attend the election. It was really good. Just a really nicely run election. I've seen other little bits of elections within other nations, just weirdly walking around and stuff. I really do like the Navari way. It feels this like the whole kind of standing behind people, the way that votes are cast, the opportunity to speak, even taking aside all of the icy reasons why things are the way they are. I actually just like it on an OC level as well. I feel like everyone gets a chance.
Everyone gets to ask questions.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to see, because senators get really into being senators.
Yeah.
Okay? They have, they're deep within this kind of political maelstrom. I think the way Navari do it is really nice because you're representing these people. And I really like the way that people ask questions that are like, God, I would have never have thought of that as a senator, that would be of concern.
Yeah.
And it was really nice seeing people just asking questions. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think about this? What do you think? Because these are my concerns.
Yeah.
And it was like really, really good. Like, I like the Navari elections a lot.
Yeah, I think actually, and this goes to a whole bunch of the positions. This is Forms Council's really good. The way generals are elected is really good, but certainly the way that senators are elected are really good. It's just a very nice way of doing things. The election went off really well. Travid won. He's a fantastic candidate. He's very difficult to stand against, to be honest with you. He's hugely charismatic and knows his business. So and talks a really good game. So yeah, I was very pleased. You've got here the champion of vigilance meeting.
So Lindy,
Yes.
I had found out that he had become the champion of vigilance last summit.
Funny thing, he mentioned this in standing on. I can't remember if this is on the Friday standing or the Saturday standing. Regardless, he. I did this very awkward thing where I'm like, I like Linda is like a good homeboy of Tellus's, really, and I'm like, I want to show. He's like, he mentions his position, and obviously he might have his position revoked.
Yeah.
And he mentions this at standing, and I'm like, I can't vote on this because I'm not a priest or a magey person. I can't remember what it is, but I don't have the power to vote on it. But I'm like, I stand with Lindy. I just randomly announce it, like from the gallery, and no, like everyone just kind of like in my media just kind of looks at me. I was like,
all right, that was a bit much.
Yeah, and then moved on. It was just hilarious. But,
so he came to me and said to me basically that they were thinking I don't know, what was he called? Vigilance Assembly? Whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
Made up of like the Cardinal and some other bods. That they were thinking about revoking his title.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, basically they'd voted him in, and then they were going to revoke him.
Well, he won by default, essentially, last event. And the reason... he won without even actually being there at the election. Listen to the Shadowsong Diaries for the full lowdown about how this happened. But basically, it was deemed that he hadn't taken it very seriously. So I think his whole drive was to prove that... Like, Linda's the kind of character where, like, he wasn't taking it seriously until you told him he wasn't taking it seriously. Then he's taking it very seriously. He's that kind of guy, right?
Chris is
Chris is phenomenal.
He's very intelligent.
Yes.
He's very much a go-getter.
Yes.
And when he asked me, like, hey, could you come down and maybe talk on my behalf? I was like, of course.
Yeah.
Like, so I went down there, and I'm dedicated to vigilance.
Yeah.
So I was like, so we all sat down. I was like, could someone explain to me, like, what's happening? They were like, well, we can revoke him and then have candidates show up, and then they can put the thing in with the vote. And I'm like, but bear in mind, Gellert is a firm believer in the system.
Yeah. And he has been elected by the system.
So I'm like, this is, like, I was like, hi, I'm Gellert Ashbourne. I'm Senator for Herkinia.
Yeah.
I'm dedicated to vigilance. And I couldn't think of anyone better to be the champion of vigilance. And I was just like, so I said to the people that wanted to revoke him, because there was definitely a contingent, and I was like, who here has another candidate they would like to put forward for that position? And the people that wanted to revoke him put their hands up, and it was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
And basically Lindir had, I think we had all the senators for Navarre there as support, but there was also, like, there's this MacGuffin, this special thing that I think Axos has.
Yes, so I think you basically need to get a certain amount of funding to be able to do this thing.
Get it back.
Yeah.
He'd already got all the funding.
Yeah.
And he just needed, like, a dose of Truliao, and that would be enough to forget. And it was just like, listen, this guy is awesome. Let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can revoke him later.
Yeah.
Just let him be awesome.
Yeah.
He's a champion of vigilance.
Yeah.
Like,
it's, by the way, it's hilarious because Lindir is questionable about if he is actually a champion of vigilance, but I love it.
He just might.
He's a
how to put it? He's very direct towards his goals.
Yes,
that's how I would describe him.
Vigilance.
They were talking about.
It's an all-encompassing.
He was talking about. Oh, I was even going to pay for it. If I couldn't pay for it, then I was going to kill him and steal it. And they were like, and that was a kind of sticking point where they were like, "What do you mean you were going to go and steal it off them?" And he was like, "Well, I didn't have to because I'm going to buy it now." And they were like, "But you would have done it." And he's like, "Well, maybe that was like a plan B." And it was like, yes. Yes,
Chris is phenomenal. Like, having Chris in any position is fantastic.
You certainly don't want him against you.
No, he's just a tour de force.
So that was at like 3:00. I had to get to Senate, so I had put in at this stage the Senate vote, okay, and I had to go.
Sorry, the throne vote.
The throne vote. Sorry.
So this is your actual motion.
My motion.
Your motion.
And I needed to get a second.
Were you, just out of interest, were you playing to hold on to your motion to use for something else? Hoping that someone else would put it in?
So that was the Friday plan, was to hold on to my motion and see if someone else put it in.
Sure. And then was your plan to second it, essentially, if that was the case?
No, I wanted someone else to use their motion for it.
Right.
And their second, so I was free to do diplomatic stuff.
Right.
But the diplomatic stuff didn't need to happen.
Sure.
And there's a whole heap of jockeying of when do we throne vote, who's ready for the throne vote, all this stuff. So I put the throne vote through, which basically means it gets raised at once, at one place, at the one session, and then it will be taken on at the next session.
So on the Sunday, essentially.
So Saturday, it's fucking hot.
Yeah.
Okay? It's crazy hot.
Yeah.
And
have they got a roof on Senate?
No.
Yeah, it's still exposed.
No. No.
Jeez.
No. PD doesn't have a roof on Senate. Why would they have a roof on Senate? We're just standing in the beating sunshine for at least an hour or more because it takes longer than that. Why would you need a roof? So I get there. So I go to the Orc camp. I speak to the senator for Skarsund, and we have a sit down in the tent. And I'm like, "We need a throne.
Yeah.
Who do you like?" They're like, I like this candidate. I'm like, who's your second? And they were like, maybe this person, but I'll never vote for this person. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm doing this with everyone, by the way. I'm constantly doing this with different senators.
Have you got a list now of people and what their preferences are? But you've got it in your head, essentially.
What I'm trying to do is create the...
environment.
Yes. Where...
get people thinking about who their second opinion would be. Right.
And put pressure on them to be like, we need a throne. Okay? Like... yeah. And everyone's like...
do you have a lot of pushback on this? Or?
Yes. There's like... there is a centre, I won't say who it is, but they were like, it's not about who is the right candidate, it's about who is the wrong candidate because of how much power the position has. Yeah. And I was like, this is a conversation we should have had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can dawdle and wait for the perfect candidate. That perfect candidate doesn't exist. We need a throne, a figurehead to lead this empire.
Right.
And we are neglecting the empire by holding off. We need to do this.
As an interesting, like, OCIC, where does Dave sit on Gellett's argument, if you know what I mean? Like,
I think it's like probably waiting for a good candidate is probably a really good idea. Sure. And it's a really powerful thing because they can seize Senate cash, which we don't have much of. They can veto certain motions. It's an incredibly powerful position. Sure. And it needs to be the right person.
Yeah. But that's where the differentiation between Dave and
Gellert believes it.
If the senators pick the
system works, okay? Right. Like, I have faith in myself because my constituents voted me in,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
Like, it's like you know, like that program that was about the Pope, where the Pope's like a really sinful Pope, and God wouldn't want him to be Pope. Unless he was also the right.
It's also the same argument that Genghis Khan made, where he would be like, "If you've not done something bad, God wouldn't have brought me here."
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And I believe in the system.
Amazing. Okay.
So, and just before Senate, the Scarson person who is affiliated to one of the candidates. Yeah. Is getting cold feet because they said to me, only if this person says to go for it, I will be your second. And then just before the thing happened, like the Senate session happens, he's like, I'm not so sure. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, this needs to fucking happen. Basically, the guy was like very hot and sweaty. Yeah. It was, dude, we're under the baking heat.
Of course.
I'm hot and sweaty and confused.
Yeah. And it's a tense moment.
And I'm not wearing an orc mask. Yeah. Okay? But it was like, actually got a message from the guy being like, hey, sorry about that. Like, I was hot and sweaty and really confused about what was going on. I was like, no worries, dude. It was actually like peak drama.
Yeah. Because the last minute
it was peak drama. I was just like, what the fuck, man? Like,
we move now.
Don't you fuck me now. Don't you fuck me on this. And basically, I had the stuff I haven't talked about before.
Yeah,
I had arranged with the bar stewards,
right?
Bar stewards.
Yeah.
They're a band.
Yeah,
they were going to show up and put pressure on people. I've been sowing this at Senate standing meetings constantly about how find out we need a throne, put pressure on people. Ask who the throne candidates are. Go and talk to those people. Yeah. I've been sowing this for like seasons at this point. Okay, and we got a poet commissioned to do a song about indecision and how decisions need to get made. Yeah. I had this all of this is backed up and ready to go. Like, I'm chomping at the bit. Yeah, I'm like. It's a hair trigger at this stage. Like, people don't know how invested I am in. I want to be the fucking throne maker. Okay, I want this. Okay, I want to be the guy that puts the motion in. We will talk about some of my tactics to do it on Sunday. But
it's big plays.
But Saturday, So in Senate, when I do a motion,
Yeah.
I'm allowed to accelerate, expedite the motion, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which means that not only does it should happen the next session,
Yeah.
but if I push that button, which is my right,
Right.
it happens right there, right then.
And how do you...
So-
you can only do that once? Is that how it
No,
works?
that I can do that for my
Right.
motion.
Yeah.
And whatever motion I've put forward needs to pass with a 2/3 majority,
Right, okay.
which is what you need to elect a throne.
Okay. So it doesn't actually change anything.
So
in
it
terms-
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I was like... So Claude is, which is the candidate I really liked. There were two candidates I really liked. I also liked the third. They're all very good.
Yeah.
But my main candidate at this point was Claude,
Right.
who's Dornish and awesome. And they were in the gallery, and I was like looking over at them. I was like, "Shall I do it?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Shall I do it?" And I'm like, she's like, "No." And I'm like, "I'm gonna do it." And it was like, I was constantly like baiting this. And when it came up, I was like, it's like, motion to elect a throne, Hakinia. I was like, put my hand up. Seconded, Skarsgård put his hand up.
Amazing.
And then I was like, I looked over at Claude and I was like, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically, it was really hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
And it was also like understanding the kind of, there's no...
It needs time to breathe.
Yeah, there's like...
You've uncorked the wine, now you've got to let it breathe a little
You've got to let it breathe. And it was like, there's this, like the soup of politics.
What I'll say is, so obviously we play very different games. From this point on, there was a hubbub going on the low level that I kind of deal with, which is basically the rumour gossip mill.
Yeah.
I have an opportunity in this kind of environment to seed certain things myself.
Yeah.
Because
you know the plan.
I know the plan to a degree. Actually, I don't know all of your manoeuvres. Like I don't know all the things. You don't actually tell Talis all the things, but I do know a fair amount. And also, Talis is fairly canny. He can pick up on certain things. So I'm myself kind of seeding, like that this has kind of happened, and like mentioning that there's a momentum that needs to sort of carry forward and stuff, and that certain parties are at play. And that, like, pretty much, I was like, if you talk about it like it is going to happen, then it's going to happen. So there was a lot of that, was like seeding a lot of like, we probably are going to have a throne by the end of this summit. Was a lot of like, bear in mind, I swim a very, very shallow pool in terms of power, but that's the kind of like level of, when rumours are coming to me, I'm like filtering that kind of stuff out.
Dude, power is an illusion.
Yeah.
Hearsay is real power.
When we get to the actual thing,
we'll
get that. On Sunday. It's amazing.
That's okay. That was my afternoon Senate session.
Yeah,
okay,
it was really good. Meanwhile, again,
time for something completely
different. I am wandering around, having a great time, selling bubbles, and I sold a book. I had somebody come up and ask me about alchemy, wonderful person from Wintermark, fairly new player, but had hustled and got together a bunch of cash. And
what did you sell it for?
2 thrones, which is actually pretty reasonable.
Fuck me, they're a new player with 2 thrones.
Yeah. Well, I actually had a lot more than that, but but some people are just really good at this kind of game. But like, it's really nice to have people approach and say, "I heard you're the person to talk about this kind of stuff." In reality, there are lots of experts on alchemy.
But your book is legit.
It is legit. No, my book is actually legit.
But also, like in real life, I wish I was more financially focused.
Yes.
Not a great motivator for me, and that tells.
Yeah, I'm not great at it, but it was really nice. It was a lovely interaction. To be honest with you, one of the things I like the most about making a sale is inviting somebody back to the camp. Quill was there, who played by our wonderful friend of Ryan. We were just playing music and just sharing times, talking about their haul. You know what? I really do like Wintermark, but Wintermark's one of those nations where, like, I really don't get to interact with them at all. And actually, I like going and like when a player comes round from Wintermark, I do genuinely enjoy talking to them.
I actually think it's like not to talk too much out of school.
Yeah,
but I think there are some very powerful bodies within Wintermark, which dominate Wintermark.
Yes, yeah.
And I think Wintermark would be a better nation if it was freer of the yoke of...
I know what you're talking about. We can't really talk about this kind of stuff.
I think there's a lot of new players who are growing into being more experienced players at this stage, and I think like Wintermark needs a revolution.
But that's happening in Navarre even to an extent, because we have, to our own degree, we have a list. I think this is true of every nation. You have established blocks.
Also, to be fair,
yeah,
if I become an established block, fucking come out.
Yeah.
Shake my podium and knock me off it.
Yeah.
Like, I actively encourage people. If you like, and bear in mind, like, I have a Senate vote next time.
Yeah.
Okay? Come and tear me down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that might just happen as a result of this event.
Wow.
There's a lot. We'll see. You're in for some spice, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was just really nice, really lovely thing. While all that's going on, though, all the way through this, there starts being the skirmishes going out against the Cold Sun.
Yeah.
The Cold Sun is a bad business, and
it's very bad business.
If you go off on a skirmish against the Cold Sun, success rates are not high.
No.
And basically, some friends of mine, Silver and some other friends from the Waystone Path, come back, and it's pretty bad. They've lost people against the Cold Sun again. This has happened already on a previous skirmish as well. So I'm like, Talus's position as somebody who gets grieving and goes and attends and is like, I tend to spend like time in different stridings.
That's our vibe.
It's very much like, because I'm no longer the Chronicler of Woes in the striding, I don't really do tellings, but I do make my presence a thing and respect the process of different stridings and steadings when I go to them when there's been loss. I did the same with Anwin when they lost people in their Fawnborn and Fawnfang. And it's a nice way to build up bonds and stuff as well. But doing it, just sitting in the corpse glade, watching them go through the process of obviously grieving their losses, talking about them. The corpse glade, by the way, is this place where we hang trinkets and things for different people that are gone, say words about them. It has quite a telling vibe anyway, because people kind of talk, there's songs that are sung. There was an awesome bit of RP by a character called Rat, who's played by Ralph, who stormed out of the corpse glade, like really upset. And Talus is like there was two things going through my mind, two different ways to kind of broach it, because it's like, I'm not a member of the Waystone Path, so I can kind of leave and go and like talk to this person. One is like the idea of like consoling, making sure they're okay on that level. The other side is this idea of like, you need to go and do what is important for the people in your striding right now, which is not the option that I went for, and I regret not going for that option, because that's actually what I think I should have done. But
what did you say? I
was much more of like the sympathetic, like, you know, the Cold Sun are bastards. We've beaten bastards before. You'll see in time. We'll take them out, and we'll deal with them. This kind of thing, all that kind of stuff, right? Like at one time, people said all this about the Druge. They said all this about, and look at where the Druge are now. That kind of stuff, right? But it was cool to have that thing where, and there was this growing vibe, and this comes much more to a head later, where it's like a lot of people have suffered a lot of loss, and there's this build-up of loss that's happening for a lot of people across the nation, and even across the Empire, I would say more broadly. The Cold Sun is a bad business, burning people's souls out when they're killed and stuff. It's quite different from a battle against other foes, I think. So for some people, I think they're dealing with like these kind of traumas, and this idea of like, not everybody can be healed by the same words, and picking the right words to use as a scalpel to help certain people is something you kind of have to read and get an idea of. It's fun. It was great RP. I really wanted to highlight it. It was just one of those. I really enjoy these little moments that you get to have. They're not moments that shape the broader mechanics of the game. They're personal moments you have with another player where you talk about character events.
You're talking about role playing.
Yes, which is just great, and it was really, really good. So and meanwhile, while I was doing all of that, you were having a meeting with a fool.
Well, I left Senate,
Right.
started walking back, and then someone came running up to me, which is something that happens more and more often, by the way, which I really appreciate, which is, Senator, I think you need to look at this.
Interesting.
I'm like, what is it? And they're like, representatives of the Thule are here, and they want to meet Navari. And I'm like, oh my god, this is the meeting I was looking forward to. So I ran over there and was like, hey, and there were two Thule, and they were like, oh, we really want to talk to people from... I'm like, I'm the Senator for Kenya.
Yeah.
We trade with you at the White House.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
A bit of a chin wag. There was... I think there was like some little kiddos playing music, and it was fucking adorable. And I had to say, I'm the Senator, by the way. I just want to say you are all doing incredibly well, and I'm so impressed by how you all playing music and singing, and it was like really fucking
wholesome
cute.
And amazing.
So fucking cute.
I love all the
my god,
moments.
kids are the cutest. They love it. They're like, oh, I love them. Anyway, we take the Thule to the Drunken Goose.
Mm-hmm.
I buy him a round of drinks, sit him down, and we have a bit of a chinwag. And it was great. I got to be like, listen, like...
let's do some business.
Let's talk. And I was like, I think we should be, you've ended slavery. Like, we want to be your friends. We have mutual enemies. Like, let's talk about trade and how we can bring ourselves closer together. And we talked, and there was a whole bunch of talking, and a lot of people moving around and finding out bits of information for them. And I was like, listen, Treji was ruined by the Thule.
Yeah.
And I would like to rebuild it.
Yeah.
And having support of the Thule to do this, and it's also a rune forge. I thought it was a rune forge. I don't know whether it is a rune forge at this stage. But the Thule really like rune forges.
Right.
And I was like, well, if you can help us rebuild it, then I'm sure we can come to an understanding on the Runeforge. And it was like one of these kind of like, oh my god, look at me doing diplomacy. They were very open to this. One of them was more business minded. The other guy just wanted to get a few drinks down them.
Amazing.
It was really fun interacting
What's security like? Because I know that it's important to say there are some entities, some nations, I should even say, within the Empire who have much more harsh feelings about the Thule and our relationship.
Gaius, who's part of our striding for one.
Yeah.
There were... It's subtle.
Yeah.
So we're talking, but there are people around who are ready.
Yeah.
Also, there's like a weird thing. Like, I know this sounds like I'm making myself sound like Big Whoop right now.
Yeah.
But like, people will be like, Senator, please come sit down here.
Yeah.
Right? And make a space for me so I can talk to them face to face. It's like, I love this, the nuance in these social interactions where a lot is unsaid, a lot of stuff is done in looks and gestures, and like, I know as a Navarre that there are heavily armed people around me that are security. I know that some people have interest in this. The advisor to the Vlorn was there, and obviously they have beef with the Vlorn, so we were talking about it, and they want to know information on how to defeat the Vlorn, and I'm like, if you're coming to talk about defeating the Vlorn, you've come to the right place. We want to help you defeat the Vlorn. Okay? Like, we're going to learn a whole bunch of new information. We want to share that information with you, and we want you to be partners with us.
Have you already spoken to people like the advisor to the Vlorn?
The advisor to the Vlorn was there.
Right.
So this is what it's about, right? Like,
getting the people in the things.
Key people who are like
representatives of those things.
If you want to talk about this, we can talk about this, right? And it's just like, it's all about gestures and like building up relationships, right? And it was just like, it was a really good meeting. And then I was like, I'm really sorry. I've been on my feet for a while. I've been in Senate for the last hour or whatever. I'm going to have to go and have a little bit of a chill out at my camp.
A Dave nap.
Well, I didn't. Did I nap? I don't think I did nap.
I don't think you napped this time. You did have a chill out, though.
I did have a chill out, but not a nap.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the things where, oh man, like it felt really good.
Yeah,
like, having that
dude.
thing, because it was like a Hikinia thing.
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
was like it
you were
felt
doing
like,
the thing.
But I don't know how much information gets passed from the NPC team to
PD.
the PD
to
and
the
the writing
crew.
team. I have no idea how that works.
It almost doesn't matter, though, in a sense
I
of
enjoyed the RP,
Yeah.
and it's like I even said to the ambassador that was
Yeah.
there, I was like, "This is really good,"
yeah,
and I was like, "Thank you so much for this,"
Yeah.
and they were like, "No worries," and they gave me a little nod, and it was just like, "Yeah, baller."
and going to like, it's important to say that like even very small people, by small I mean like people who are very like they're not these hat holder people. In this kind of environment, when this kind of stuff's going on, can actually the way they subtly add to the RP of the moment, like the idea of somebody standing up to give you their seat so the senator can sit, and the look you can exchange with that person, which is like the acknowledgement of like thank you,
Dude.
all of that, like the ceremony of all of these different things, the people milling around, adding the music, adding the
Dude,
environment.
It's the same as the Hennessy Jones thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you haven't listened to the ILARP Flying Ned stuff,
Yeah.
I do a character called Hennessy Jones. He's the baddest son of a bitch in the West.
Yeah.
Me, Dave,
Yeah.
is not the baddest son of a bitch in the
Yeah.
West. But by people role-playing
Helping
with me
you, right?
that I actually am,
Yeah.
the character is,
Yeah.
it helps. For in that situation, I am the Sinister
Yeah.
Hikinia.
Also, it's important to say a lot, even if you don't know it, and this is what's interesting about this situation, even if you don't know it, Dave, a lot of people who you don't know are probably invested in the things you are doing, you know, and care about what you're doing just by being at that meeting.
I don't know. Hikinians are pretty chill.
Yeah, but you never know. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is like
I love my constituents because every time I talk to anyone from Hikinia, apart from a very small group, are like,
yeah, it's going alright.
yeah, you know, you're probably doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
They're like
Amazing.
they're like Badlands, California.
Yeah.
They're like, you leave us alone, I'll
Yeah,
leave
yeah,
you
yeah,
alone.
yeah.
They're like, I love my constituents.
Yeah.
They're the most chill,
Yeah.
violent hillbillies who
Yeah.
are like, just do your best.
I'll tell you what, like, each of the different regions has a vibe. I don't know if this is just me, like, inserting it, but, like, for example, and it's almost like the senators kind of give off some of this vibe. Like, the Farunan election does feel like a bunch of people who all have, like, little vested interests going on.
Yeah.
Right? It does feel like there's a bunch of, like, little people listening to Travid talk.
And the Miarin one
Yeah.
was like pointed
Yes.
and political
Yes.
and like all
Yeah.
that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Hikinia's like, what are you doing against the Valorn? It's like, well, I don't like the Valorn, I'm doing this. And it's like, it's great. Like,
Yeah.
I love...
And I think weirdly, you maybe it's, and it might transcend you as well, but like there is like this kind of your role as senator can, I think, almost kind of seed some of that.
Oh, well, bear in mind, I had Riz as my previous centre, who
was
is
very good.
Just the most charismatic, handsome, diplomatic human being on the planet Earth. He's
Now general.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So, big boots to fill.
Yeah. Huge boots to fill.
Right, archery competition.
Yeah, so while you're doing all of this, there's an archery competition. So there had been basically arranged that there would be an archery competition. Originally it was supposed to be between the Marchers, Dawn and Navarre to have an archery competition to see which is the best archery block. Basically, the idea is that a certain number of competitors will compete in various different competitions during this whole thing. I decide, as Talis want to do, I'm going to bring food, drink, party accoutrement to make like the environment really good, really fun, hopefully for everybody. Turn up, Yeah, and it was a really wholesome event. In the end, only Dawn and us turned up, but we had a really nice competition where we had a bit of crowd participation, people watching. It was basically 3 competitors from each of the blocks, I think, represented, but other people were there watching. And I was
let's get down to brass tacks.
Feeding people.
Who won?
We won.
Damn right
we did. It was very close. I think we literally won by a point. But it was a lovely thing. And it was like, it was broken down into different things. There was like a moving target section. There was like...
Hold on. How did you do a moving target section?
I actually didn't see that one because I left a little bit early.
Oh, please don't tell me someone had to strap a target on their back and wander around.
I think somebody maybe did run around. I don't know. But there was also like a one for like checking arrows and taking... so doing the whole checking arrows and shooting and hitting targets in a time allotment. So there was that as a process.
I love this.
There was a lot of things. So it was like building the archery range, by the way, is run by a leaguer who just runs it really well. It's a wonderful thing to have the event. There's also like there's a skill called it lets somebody when they're around you lets you borrow the skill.
Interesting.
So you so if you have like no skill points, you can like basically be somebody who picks up whatever skill that you have and can use it as long as they're next to you.
Wow.
So it means that somebody can then go along and use bows and take shots and have the marksman skill temporarily while they're at the range.
That's awesome.
So it's cool, right? So it's like it lets you do the thing. And they have like bows there that have all been checked by the safety people. They go to a lot of effort basically and set this whole place up.
It looks amazing.
It's really cool. It's really cool, and it's like a nice little safe area. It's great. And
the only problem with it is there's not enough room for a throne vote anymore because
the archery range.
And that was actually a factor.
Yeah, but I think it worked out better for where we had it. It's so good when we get to the throne vote. But no, it was a really good, wholesome event. I basically was going around providing food to people. Weirdly, on the walk back, I had this whole thing of everyone, all participants and people watching get to have the food, the drink that I'm providing. I had like lemonade and stuff, and I had cupcakes, waffles, all kinds of stuff. All my general kind of party accoutrement. It's all for free as long as you're there at the event. And then I was like, I need to shift some of this stuff because there's a lot to carry back because I had it all in my box. And I've got another thing to go to. I've got the Fawns Cup, which is taking place at 7.
What is the Fawns Cup?
The Fawns Cup is the melee tournament that takes place. So that would take place. Yeah. There's a melee tournament that takes place in near basically opposite the Black Hawk camp in Navarre. There's like a roped off area where they have the Fawns Cup. And there's been multiple winners. It's really cool. They've got this sword which they've kind of written all the different winners on. It started earlier in this year by Seth, who's the guy who runs the national training now.
Oh, he's really good.
He's really fucking good, by the way. I'm hopefully there's a bunch of stuff I want to work with.
So they run it every summit?
Every summit, and there's a new champion every summit.
That's cool.
Everyone who participates puts money in. There's encouraged side betting on the side.
Nice.
I've been really trying to get there to be a crowd. I like the idea, not necessarily like this.
Just to pause. Seth is doing a great job,
Seth's
by the way.
Fantastic.
He embodies that role,
Yeah.
and he takes it really seriously,
Yeah.
and I think it's really good.
Oh, he's fantastic. Like, I've had a bunch of chats with him. Also, little things like moving national training actually onto the pathway, the road that basically goes through Navarre, naturally creates it in that tighter environment, which we didn't have before when we were doing it. So it means that you get used to that idea of being funneled in.
Yeah.
Right, and which is much more indicative of how things actually are in the woods, right?
Yeah.
Where
like a real
you don't get to
training.
make a 20 long line, right? You get like 5 people snugly tight packed next to each other with an objective they have to get, that kind of deal. The training's a lot more geared up for that. Obviously, all this stuff takes time, but I really do feel like he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
With the Fawns Cup, I've really wanted to build this thing because it's happening every summit. It's very much a thing where I'm like, Talis definitely wants to be involved in this. This feels like something we can make a spectacle. I like the idea of it being a bit more WWE and adding that bit of pizzazz to it all. Like, you know, I want crowd participation, so I'm kind of going around giving food to people. I really want to try and make it more of a thing.
Having been to WWE, no one's handing out cupcakes.
No, I know, but like I want like there's I like the idea of like us eventually getting chants and like people cheering on much more. And there was the beginnings of this taking place this time. This is the third time it's been run. I think third time, maybe even fourth time. It's basically this tournament takes place where it's basically first to 3 touches, and it's all done on like a timer. So you have like I think in the all the initial rounds it's like a 2-minute timer, and every time there's a touch it gets paused, and then you get reset, and you go again. And if say I've got you twice and you don't manage to get to get to 3 points before the time runs out, you lose. So it's like that you can lose on time, you can lose by stepping out of the area, and you can lose by getting touched. It's just a really nice format. Different weapon formats come in. It works really well. And basically you get a number, and you know, number 1 fights against the highest number, and you work your way down, and then knockout, final. It's really nice. It's quick. It's speedy. It gives everybody a chance for a rest. Everybody a chance to, you know, I'm going around giving out lemonade, a couple of drinks and things, and crowd getting them some food. There's some nice cheering. There's gambling on the side. It's a great time. Doing all of that was really good fun. Really good thing. Just watching different winners. I think last time Little Worm won, who is somebody from the Star Seekers over in really cool. He won the last time. This time, oh man, I've forgotten his name. He's a really cool guy. Again from Entwined Paths. Won again. And I think the very first one was won by Ash Silverfletch, who was the chap who I'm responsible for killing in Yelona's eyes.
Whoopsie.
So I think there's been 3 tournaments, but it's really cool because there's this sword which all these different names are written on. It's a really nice little thing, and I think I like stuff like this, right? I think it's a cool thing to have. After that, oh my gosh, oh dear man, this is so. I'm on a bit of a high. I've just basically been like giving out all the foods, looking after all the people. Oh, by the way, there was these leaguers, these 3 ladies who were like enjoying like a nice little sit down by the archery tournament, and they were close enough where I deemed like your audience, right? Have food, because I was just trying to get rid of stuff, and it was like have cupcakes. And I just kept plying them with things, just because like I'm in that sort of spirit. It's very Tellis kind of sort of thing. Later on during the Fawns Cup, they're walking their way through, and they run into the Fawns Cup, and then I'm just like, more food and stuff. They're like, oh my gosh, because it was like I do it like courses as well. So there's like, for the aperitif we have. It was so good. So that was a great time. So I'm coming off this high of doing this kind of all this kind of party stuff and celebrating the winner, all that kind of thing. Obviously heard the Novarchus won the archery tournament as well. Amazing. Head back to camp, chill there for a little bit, and then Farron turns up, and man, he's in like a bad way. He's in like full on tears, ugly crying, kind of like broken because Lofi, who is like basically like a founding Blackscar, died.
He's a legend in the game.
Yeah, like big deal. Died to the cold sun, right? And normally, so the relationship that Farron and Tellis have is basically we're like the survivors, the people who see everybody else die, and slowly, he's like had to see a lot of people die, and like I play this role almost like an uncle, right? Who looks after, like I guess. Are
you big brothering Farron right now?
In a way, I kind of am. It has that kind of relationship, right, where it's like he comes to me for like emotional support. But this is like normally, Talis can kind of talk him out of it, like, you know, we'll see this through, like, you know, you and me were the people who deal with this for other people, this kind of stuff. This time, there was no getting through to him, and this is like, it's seeing like Farron get broken down by like the losses he's had to endure, because there's a lot. There's been like stacking up continuously of all these different losses. It was like heart-wrenching to see my boy get like cut up like this, and it was awesome RP. but it was like, it was just really, really cool. It was really, really cool, and it was like, it really sold that idea, especially leading off the back of what I said earlier with Rat, his character, that same sort of vibe. Like the Cold Sun is like a different type of threat, and then you see, I had been offered, because there was like, I think another skirmish against the Cold Sun going at some time, and I was like, there was talk about them needing numbers, and I thought maybe I will go out. To be honest with you, I probably wasn't going to go, but it was kind of in the back of my mind that I would. And Farron was like, promise me you won't take the field against them this summit, because I can't handle losing you. And I was like, he made me like swear an oath that I wouldn't go. And I was like, oh. It was a tough situation, because it was like, I don't know, that kind of goes slightly against the Fawn's oath. And it was like, but I was like, yeah, this is cool RP. So I was like, I'll do it, but it can't be this way. It can't be this way always, you understand, and all this kind of stuff. It was really touching RP, and it was one of those things where afterwards he breaks it. Like, he's in, like, Saul's an amazing RPO. It's very important to say this. His tears, his, like, stuff is so convincing. It really is awesome RP. When he gets up to leave, he just kind of comes back and leans over and says, just for your information, like, Farron hasn't said anything to anybody for 2 hours until this point. You're the first person he's spoken to. And it was like, oh my gosh, the weight of it is just so intense. And it's just like, he's so good. Like, Farron is what a character. Saul is a crazily good RP
I actually had one of the Fawns come up to me after because I'd been hyping up this 4 o'clock skirmish. And I wanted to go, but I was in Senate.
Yeah.
So they came up to me and said to me, like, hey, we lost... it was a huge amount of people. And it was a 50-person skirmish. Yeah. And I responded with, I would have preferred to have 50 thrones dead and the trod still intact.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and was just like, we did everything we could.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like,
it's heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff.
Like, as a senator, I was like, Fawns are meant to sacrifice themselves, but the look in that person's eyes was like, we got lucky with the losses that we had, and we could do it. I've heard a bunch of stuff as well. I've heard a bunch of stuff that calls weren't necessarily being taken, and those calls potentially should have been being taken.
Yeah, I think there was a misunderstanding of the brief. This is all very rumour mill, so do take this as
rumour mill.
That there was potentially a misunderstanding of the brief by some of the people who were playing as these heralds or representatives of the Cold Sun.
Yeah.
All of this is very difficult to define. It's one of those things.
Were they wearing head stuff?
There was also stuff that maybe they couldn't hear. So I heard that maybe potentially they couldn't
hear calls, but this...
All of this stuff's very tricky.
Actually created like a whole bunch of game.
Yeah.
Now, granted, my character didn't get murdered on one of these things, and therefore I probably have a very different perspective from someone that, say, did lose their character that they cared very much about on one of these skirmishes. I think this is part of...
It's part of LARP, I think. Let's just be real. Like, errors are going to happen. With the best will in the world, at some point... somebody is going to misunderstand a brief, or is going to not hear a call, or is going to, people are going to get trounced unexpectedly, and lots of people are going to die. And it doesn't really matter what system you're running and what thing you're doing. Sooner or later, human error will creep in, and something will happen.
Calls are very hard. I understand why they use... Andy Connell actually made a really good reference to it, where calls are for what you can't do in reality but need to represent. The problem is, if people can't hear, they're not briefed properly, these things kind of fall apart. So anyway,
for RP purposes, as you say, neither of us are those people who have directly suffered from these things, but for the broader RP for the thing, it really has given the Cold Sun this very, like...
oh my god, like
serious, terrifying vibes.
It doesn't matter what you do to them.
Yeah.
It does. They ignore.
Yeah. All the
cleave,
things.
they ignore. We tried all of this.
All the things, yeah.
And it's like, you feel like we're in this meat grinder of, well, we just have to keep sending troops in to try out new things.
Apparently, and this again is very rumour mill.
Apparently, yes.
But this has been said to me by multiple people. And
yes.
I love this, and it's a lovely, wholesome thing. I actually hope this is a thing.
Yeah.
But I heard that the wonderful people from the academy headed out on an encounter which involved some occult song.
The wee little kiddos,
and they sang. And apparently, the academy students worked out that if you sing, it confuses the cold song. Like if there's music or something like that, they kind of get confused and can't do anything. If that's actually turns out to be something we can miratilistically use, I
want
love
this
it.
to be true. I want it to be true so badly. And I love the idea.
It's actually really cool, right?
Yeah.
Like this idea of something, because it really has that fairy tale vibe of there's the big scary thing that all of the big bad warriors can't kill, and yet the pure of heart kids find the weakness that people can exploit. It's such a lovely idea.
There was a vote this summit in Senate that was something to do with the academy, and I can't remember what it was, but it gives the academy more interaction with the game. I can't remember what it was, but
that's very nice.
I'm hugely in favour of all of this. I certainly don't mind little kiddos doing their thing and affecting the wider game. I think it's fucking great.
I think the academy has really proved itself over a long period of time and proved that it can deal with interacting with a lot of elements of the game.
Listen,
that maybe when it was devised as a concept, people didn't think it ever would.
I know Ollie, who is part of I think he might be the main dude there. I'm not sure, but they're a really good bunch.
They're phenomenal.
I would love to be 8 years old.
Yeah.
And my parents taking me to Empire.
So crazily cool.
And going to the academy.
Yeah.
It would be amazing.
I think it's one of those things. It will always need constant checks and constant re-evaluation and all this kind of stuff. Obviously you have to be careful about all these things, but I'm a huge supporter of it. I think they've done an absolutely phenomenal job. I love this as a piece of RP to emerge. And it actually might prove to be a really good tonic to, as I say, if it turns out that they kind of had...
So the hurt feels,
The hurt feels, actually there's now this other mechanism for dealing with them, which, what if we start having things where we're taking musicians onto skirmishes?
Or we just do... As for Navarro fighters for, and then just doing that and murdering people.
Be hilarious.
I'm here for that.
Yeah. But I love the idea. Imagine because you've got all these people who are extremely skilled musicians. Let's use them. Let's give them that badass bardic moment, right? That would be so cool. So that was awesome. After all of this big interaction with Farron, Nietzsche is recovering, played by Tom, is recovering from a bit of heat stroke that he's kind of suffered over in the Rambler's Rest. And I'm we basically got a date for a playwright to come round and record the story of how Ifan was my wonderful 14-inch lizard was saved from a tree in Brakeliand.
Hashtag no consent given.
I did ask you.
Wow.
I did ask you. That's literally a lie.
Wow.
Literally a lie. Wow. But it was phenomenal. Poor Tom, I think he was a little bit drained, but actually, by the time the playwright came round, we managed to weave this bonkers, out of nowhere, ludicrous story, which I'm sure this bard will turn into a really funny play. He's the same person who basically did this story about Nietzsche kind of fighting against ultimately the author of the play itself in a previous play. It was so good.
It was amazing.
So I can't wait to see what they do. We just had a great time describing all this stuff. I really can't talk about it because I want you all to see the play live if you get the chance when it's finally written. I think it's going to be baller. Basically, the way I kind of pitched it OC outside of the event was I like the idea of Nietzsche almost being like Biggles. Biggles goes off on adventures, and Talos is one of those weird, quirky characters that Biggles runs into on one of his adventures. and I quite like that as the kind of the general vibe of what we're doing. You know, remember those kind of like those kind of stories, right? Almost like that sort of Famous E5 kind of stuff.
I loved it when I was a kid.
Yeah, all of that kind of vibe, right?
They're probably really problematic.
Probably really problematic,
yeah.
but in a non-problematic way. If they are,
yeah,
I want it done in that spirit, right?
Yeah.
So that was great fun. I actually think the order's slightly wrong here because I've got Caro's Telling at the bottom, but I think actually that came next.
Caro's Telling was next.
Yeah, we had a Caro's Telling.
So a telling is like a funeral. It basically involves us going along to a camp, and basically we actually had Gaius doing this. So he was our priest. He basically invited people to tell stories about Caro. We've known Caro for like a really long time now. He's an OG, and it was one of those deeply emotional moments that you get at RP sometimes, where you get to say goodbye to a friend while they're still actually OC alive. And we basically sat down. Gaius saw us in, and we all kind of took a moment and told stories. And man, it was pretty hard because, you know, we're friends with Robert, we're friends with Caro, the actual character, and I told stories about how Ifan, my old character, had told me a story about how he had been cleaved in the street and was being harassed, and that Caro had actually come up and was a Navarre who had stood by Ifan when he was in need. And I was like, that's a fucking cool story. What was the other story I told? Do you remember? I can't remember what the other story I told was.
I can't remember. I know I did. I have this kind of weird position because I was the first chronicler. I often talk about why we do tellings, because I like to hammer that home as like a message.
But how good was Bung though?
Bung was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And seeing Bung can do a bunch of these now, and he's really sort of made it his own thing. But for me, for my part, I was just basically talking about how the conversations, both silly and serious, that Caro and Talis would have. You know, the fact that Caro was self-sacrificing, the person who would be the man for the moment for the nation, and not, you know, when he lost the generalship, it was as much a service as when he gained it.
Yeah,
I think he was that sort of person.
That's what I was saying. Like, that was one of my stories, was talking about how he had organised the troops to go to the Athaven, and how he'd become general, and how he had come into that role. And bear in mind, like, Robert is playing a different character, stuff by different. I think like there's something. I think death in LARP is really valuable. I think it's something that players fear potentially too much when it's. And bear in mind, like, there were some big characters lost over the weekend.
Yeah.
Luffy.
Caro,
Black Jack died.
Yeah.
Caro died. And countless other people that we're not related to died this weekend, and big characters. And it's there's big OC feels, and it takes time, and you have to process that stuff. I checked in with most people, a lot of people this weekend after the event, being like, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Like,
I think as well, like, I kind of seesaw on it, right? Because there was a point, a time where, a bunch of times this year, where I've been thinking, like, if Talis dies now, it works, right? Like, and I can do it. It never works. In reality, it doesn't actually work that way often, right? That, like, it can do. But what I'm saying is, death can come to you through a momentary thing on any battlefield, and that's not something you control. And yeah, that sort of stuff does scare me in a way, but I think it always will, and it always probably should, because I do care about my character. I care about the things, but if I didn't care, then it wouldn't matter as much when it happens. And I think at the same time, in a weird way, I do look forward to my own telling when it eventually happens. But then, you know what I mean?
It will be ridiculous.
But
Ian, we are running out of time for Saturday, by the way.
Yeah.
We've been warbling for a long time.
I think I was fine, basically, in the telling until Orion started singing. When Orion started singing, I was like, damn it, here's the waterworks. I was unprepared for this song that he's written literally about Caro.
Yeah, but he wrote that song months ago.
Yes, because Caro's been trying to, like, literally throwing himself bodily in the face of danger for a long time.
Orion is the best value.
Yeah, so good.
Like, he's a lovely friend, but also a fantastic musician. If you find a musician and you're LARPing, get him. Add them to your group. Hold
immediately.
them close.
Don't let anyone near them.
Don't let anyone else touch them.
They're
Mine.
yours. Yes, hands off.
Yes.
Now, here's a question for you.
Go on.
Do you want to early end Saturday now
Yeah.
and kick into what we have left of Saturday and Sunday on a separate episode?
Potentially, because I've read a couple of things on this list.
I have some big stuff still to talk about.
We have around 14 minutes.
I don't think we'll fit it in.
Okay. So let's go to the patrons.
The patrons.
Dear listener, you can be a patron of the LARP News podcast.
There's not exactly many perks for it, but
There
we do
are
try.
Literally no perks apart from the random number generator, which is us reading your name out in such a fashion. We did change batteries.
We did.
You help pay for those batteries,
Yeah.
dear patrons. You help us in so many ways. We've rolled a free.
We've got a free.
And we don't appreciate you enough. Is it my turn to say it?
Yeah.
Paul Venner.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Paul Venner. Thank you very much.
We'll be back with the rest of Saturday.
I also, because we've got a little bit of time,
Yeah.
I bumped into Mark Kurdzian,
Okay. All right.
who we have butchered his name
Did we mercilessly butchered it?
over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, this is on the Sunday.
Yeah.
I was getting together with my Orc Master and all that stuff, and he just goes to me, "Hey, I'm Mark Kurdzian."
Right.
And I was like, I am so sorry for butchering your name
Yeah.
so often.
Yeah.
Could you say it again for me now
Yeah.
so I remember for the podcast to say your name correctly?
As we can see from your previous attempts, such thing has not worked.
And Mark
Yeah.
said his name,
Yeah.
which is really lovely, by the way, when you hear it said. Like, the G's are a lot less harsh than the way we say it.
Okay.
It's a lovely sounding name. It
Right.
really, the way Mark said it,
All right.
Collision. Mark Collision.
Mark, we really appreciate it.
We really appreciate you.
And all of you, all the
I'm
patrons, we really,
so
really appreciate it.
sorry that you actually had the wonderful opportunity to let us know how your name sounds, and we still fuck it up.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people find it hilarious that we still fuck your name up, Mark, but we appreciate you.
Yeah. And I think this goes for all the patrons, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it really has, and especially with you, with like transporting around and doing things for some of the other LARPs you've gone to and stuff like that. Some of it just wouldn't be possible.
There's a lot of like hidden upkeep that I basically
shoulder everything.
Yeah,
basically.
but the thing is, it's more like I tend to not take money out of the Patreon unless it's something big.
Well, we tend to have a chat about it, and then like I'm very happy for you because basically I don't have the opportunity to do a lot of the things.
Well, like we paid for an editor for the
Can't Craft
Won'tcraft video.
Which is really good fun, by the way, if you want to just watch something a
we're
bit silly.
hopefully going to do another one on our YouTube. So
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. These things, these projects, they kind of they're constantly in flux as and when we have time.
I think it's like we get to like we're not massively wealthy people, but like we get to, through the support of our patrons, be able to scratch that creative itch.
Also, we're fucking awful at this whole like thing. Like we constantly forget to actually put our PID numbers up for
the
people
discount thing.
for the discount thing, which actually helps. I think the person going for it as much as
we've got to that stage where we have like Manscaped emailing us to be like,
oh
hey,
gosh,
yeah. I don't want to do Manscaped, dude. No. I don't want to advertise Shadow Legends.
No,
I don't want
my God, can you imagine?
I don't want to advertise you buying us plot of land so you become a noble.
No,
I don't want any of that.
Yeah. That sounds like a terrible time.
Yes, that's not
exactly what I'm against.
Future projects, I am willing to lie down on the bed with my petticoats up, but not the LARP noobs.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate your custom. Yeah. Anyway, this has been like a really long, drawn out advertising for our Patreon.
Yeah.
So,
which we don't often do, to be in all fairness. But
also, by the way, if you're broke and have no money, leave us a review on something.
Yeah.
Like literally go to iTunes and be like, the LARP noobs suck. 1 star.
Please don't do that. Please say nice things.
Well,
or honest things.
Honestly, just give us fucking decent, like, actual feedback.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely. Anyway,
we love you all.
We're rambling on.
Yeah.
We'll finish off Saturday, and then we'll do Sunday.
Massive Sunday, by the way.
Massive, big old Sunday, which is usually not what we do, a big Sunday. So,
Spicy.
Spicy.